EASTC is becoming more and more known on the continent of Africa. We hope that celebrating the African Statistical Day at EASTC will enhance the center's publicity, so much so that we hope more and more African countries will be sending their students to come and study here at EASTC. The last reason, certainly not the least, is the fact that the African Statistics Day is being celebrated here when EASTC is now enrolling PhD candidates, when the data revolution in Africa is gaining momentum. For that reason, the theme of the African Statistical Day, which is better data for better lives, harnessing modern technology to enhance national statistical system, is indeed a challenge call to both EASTC and PhD candidates to take seriously the role of modern technology in advanced studies so as to ensure that national statistical system in Africa are led and managed by statisticians who have cutting-edge IT skills and competences. It is only in this way that we can be sure that the data revolution in Africa will establish the habit of producing, disseminating, and using highly quality data for better lives.
Guest of honor, the African Statistics Day is celebrated every year on the 18th of November each year. This event was initiated in 1990 by United Nations Economic Commission for Africa in line with the Joint African Conference of Planners, Statisticians, and Demographers, and the Council of Ministers responsible for finance and planning in Africa. They did this purposely in 1990. The main objective of this day is to create public awareness in terms of utilizing the numbers that we statisticians in the world, we do produce for development planning. So to monitor whatever our governments, African governments, they are doing. Guests of honor, over the years, as I've said, the celebration have focused on issues related to the importance of statistics in development planning and policy formulation. There is no doubt about this. Number of contemporary topics that have been celebrated almost every year include gender, environment. Now we are coming to the open data revolution, and so on. Honorable guest of honor, for this year, 2015, as the rector of Eastern Statistical Center has said, the theme is around better data for better lives, harnessing modern technology to enhance national statistical system. Honorable guests of honor, this has made me to recall back. For any development plan, you can't make any plan if you don't have data. And this data has to come to the authoritative source. And this is national statistical offices in Africa. We normally call national statistical offices are the gatekeepers of the official statistics that we do use for our development plans in Africa. Enhancing technology and innovations. This is very important because we need to have a cost-effective data production now. We have to run out of the papers. We don't want to use more papers. After all, we don't have a storage capacity where we have to keep all these questionnaires we do collect after the census or whatever you do. So we have to harness. We have to take on board technologies, as the rector from EASTC has said.
Better lives. What it is that you would want if you were to have better lives. A job, good health care, education, depending on who you're asking. It could be various things. And as the list could go on and on, depending on who you're asking what they would like to have for better lives, then what does statistics have to do with that? What does statistics have to do with getting good health care? What does statistics have to do with getting or completing your education here at EASTC? What does statistics have to do with water coming to your neighborhood? And the statisticians would tell you, and maybe some others who don't have any information about statistics would tell you that it could give you sufficient information to plan adequately. If you know what is there and you know how many people need that service, who is getting, who is not getting, and what more we need to put in, then it could help the government to better plan. So at the end of the day, if they're talking about a water project coming to a community, and we know how many households are in that community, how many have access, and therefore how many more need access to water, then they could adequately plan that project to reach to those who most need. It helps you in targeting so that those who have don't get double the amount. Because there are many times when programs and projects do not reach the target because we don't know exactly who it is that needs. Yes, it might be the community that needs, but there are some others within that community that might have access to other sources. So knowing what it is and what needs to be done to improve better lives, the only thing that could get that done is statistics and understanding what is going on.
Directly as a result of the national census results of 2012, to see that where some emphasis was being done in rural areas, it's also moved to the urban areas. One good example is with regards to health insurance, where health insurance in the rural areas was now being emphasized through community health funds. However, the National Health Insurance Fund has set up another scheme for the urban areas, so that people who are not formally employed can also contribute a little towards the health insurance and be covered, because as we see now, it appears that the mortality is getting higher in the urban areas, a reverse from what was in the past. So we do recognize how vital NBS is to an effective social protection program in Tanzania, and we work very closely with the National Bureau of Statistics, and we'll continue to work towards that. With regards to the mission of the Social Security Regulatory Authority, our mission is to supervise and regulate social security in Tanzania in order to ensure that these services reach every Tanzanian. And how does it affect you as an individual? In this audience, I can see that there are some people who are probably at the end, in the early 20s, and there are some people who are my age, probably in the mid-40s, and onwards towards the 60s. So what does this have to do with me as an individual? How does statistics for better life affect me as an individual? As I said, it's your right constitutionally to social security. However, if you're employed in the formal sector, you're required by law to contribute something towards your social security. So if you do not follow up on your data, if you do not know what's happening with the social security scheme, if you're a student and you think, okay, I don't have to think about when I'm 60, but we're looking at the statistics now, and it says when you're 60, you're expected to live on average another 18 years at least. So what happens when you don't have a salary and you're going to live 18 whole years? What are you going to do with yourself? So the Social Security Regulatory Authority is putting in place mechanisms to ensure that at least for those people in the formal sector where we have some control over the statistics, we have clear statistics on when you started work, on what your salary was, on how you're supposed to contribute. And we are doing that by issuing guidelines to those 5 pension funds that we regulate, the Health Insurance Fund, together with the newly created Workers' Compensation Fund, to make sure that each individual's statistics are properly collected, they are properly kept, and they can be reported upon any time that they are required to do so.
As countries embark on implementation of the 2015 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals, better and reliable data are vital. Monitoring of the SDGs will pose a significant challenge to all developing and developed countries alike. Contributions and expertise of all stakeholders, that is producers and users of statistics, academia, the private sector, and civil services, is needed to continue making better data available for countries' development agenda and fulfillment of the Sustainable Development Goals in the next 15 years. Better data allow different national and international dialogues in improving efficiency of the government in proper developing planning and tackling different challenges that evolve over time. Better data also assist policymakers and program implementers to monitor and evaluate existing programs and to design new strategies for improving people's lives. And it's very important also that we interpret the data first correctly but in the most informative ways, because that's the only way will ensure that the statistics that are collected are actually informing the policy-making process in the country. For instance, you hear time and again people observing that the GDP, we are told that the GDP is growing in this country, but we don't feel that our lot is improving, lock in step with the improvement in the GDP. So actually sometimes when you communicate the information about the GDP, you meet with derision from sections of the population who believe that this data is nothing, because if it doesn't translate in the improvement of the livelihood of the people, it doesn't mean much. The data itself means a lot. The interpretation is what matters, that the GDP is growing. And it's growing at a robust rate over the last decades and so. But you must look at what is growing, the contribution to the GDP itself. Or if you wish, you take the GDP as a huge piece of cake and try to slice it and distribute among the population in the country. So you know that over 70% of our population depends on agrarian economy, mostly agricultural economy. But they contribute slightly less than 30% of the GDP. That's to say that if you take the entire cake of our national income, only about a third goes to two-thirds of the population, more than two-thirds of the population. So no wonder people feel that the GDP growth is not improving their lots. And by looking at the data this way and trying to put proper interpretation in the data, it will inspire new thinking. And the new thinking in the government now is that to make sure that we expand our manufacturing base, because we know by doing that we will create employment to our youth, but that will have to go hand in hand with improving productivity in the rural area, so that even if the price of goods produced in the rural area is going down, the sheer quantity of production will be so high that the income of the lots in the rural area will improve and reduce poverty, but at the same time, our manufacturing base will help us not only to produce mass consumption good in our own country, but to export so that we protect our shilling and ensure that we improve the life of our people. So by looking at the data in that way, not just a numerical figure, but putting it in the context, it will help to inform our people that Madam Chua is producing credible data. We just need to have proper interpretation so that everybody understands that it's true the economy is growing, and you can see it by construction that is ongoing, but it's true that you have reasons for people to lament about the trickle-down effect of the growth, and therefore the policy-making process must respond to these challenges to ensure that you have a policy that is transformative in terms of changing the economic pattern and improving the lot of our people. I will conclude my speech by reiterating that for all of us here, stakeholders of statistics, let us all play our part in making sure that better data are available for better planning to conform with this year's theme, Better Data for Better Lives. So with those remarks, I wish to declare that the African Statistics Day 2015 is officially open, and wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you for your kind attention.